Saudi Arabia has just made a monumental decision, dropping the US dollar. On June 9, 2024, the 50-year-old petrodollar pact between Saudi Arabia and the United States expired, and Saudi Arabia has opted not to renew it. This decision could redefine international trade, impact global markets, and shift economic power. But why did Saudi Arabia make this move? What does it mean for the rest of the world?
Do I have to sign in Arabic now?
Yes.
The petrodollar system was born out of necessity. Signed on 8 of June 1974, the deal, which was established between Saudi Arabia and the United States in the aftermath of an oil crisis, allowed the U.S. a steady flow of crude oil and a market to buy its debt while the Saudis would get military aid and equipment. The petrodollar system came about after the U.S. went off the gold standard. Prior to the petrodollar system, the U.S. had tied its mighty dollar to the price of gold under the Bretton Woods Agreement. However, in 1971, then U.S. President Richard Nixon, facing economic turmoil, decoupled the dollar from the gold standard, leading to a unique agreement with Saudi Arabia. The petrodollar system was set up the next year. In 1972, after the U.S. dollar collapsed under the weight of the global economy, need and demand for safe assets exceeded the available supply of gold bullion. The deal with the kingdom ensured that oil sales would be denominated in U.S. dollars, solidifying the dollar's position as the world's primary reserve currency. This system not only stabilized the U.S. economy, but also established a financial interdependence between oil-producing countries and the United States. For decades, this relationship thrived, with the U.S. dollar maintaining its supremacy. The petrodollar system facilitated global trade, fueled economic growth in oil-rich nations, and cemented the dollar's role in international finance. The influence of the U.S. dollar extends far beyond oil, affecting global trade policies, international debt, and economic stability. According to sources, the use of dollars to purchase crude oil has made and kept the currency strong, which in turn has made imports comparatively cheap for U.S. consumers. David Wright wrote in his book, Bonfire of the Sanities, that people in the U.S. enjoy as high of a standard of living as we do is because the dollar is strong, because energy can't be bought without U.S. dollars. But times are changing, and so are the dynamics of global power. As of 2023, approximately 60% of global foreign exchange reserves were held in U.S. dollars, from a peak in 1975 of 75%. And nearly 40% of global trade invoices were in dollars. But is the US dollar the first currency to dominate global trade? Over the centuries, several currencies have held the top spot. Let's take a journey through history to understand the evolution of dominant currencies. In ancient times, the Roman denarius was widely used across the empire. During the medieval period, the Venetian ducat became the currency of choice for merchants. France held the top spot as world reserve currency from 1720 to 1815. The French assignat originated in 1789, shortly after the start of the French Revolution. The British pound sterling took over from France and held the world reserve currency from 1815 to 1920. The rise of the British East India Company issued in the dominant British currency of the time. British companies were the leaders in the industry, and British insurers became the main insurers of trade globally. Finally, the 20th century saw the rise of the US dollar, especially after World War II, and the establishment of the Bretton Woods system. The US has held the world reserve currency from 1921 to today. Each transition was marked by significant economic and political events, such as the fall of the Roman Empire, the rise of Venice as a trading power, the Industrial Revolution, and the post-war economic order. These shifts highlight how economic and geopolitical changes can influence global finance. Historical data shows that currency dominance is often linked to the economic and military power of the issuing nation. For instance, the British pound accounted for nearly 60% of global foreign exchange reserves at its peak in the early 20th century. If the US dollar is such a dominant force, what's behind the decision to drop the US dollar? Several factors have contributed to Saudi Arabia's decision to ditch the US dollar.
The United States announced a new round of sanctions on 17 Saudi officials for their involvement, members of the royal court, and the Saudi government. State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert was asked if there will be any more measures coming against higher Saudi rulers, including Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, also known as MBS.
We regard the announcement that they made as a good first step. It's a step in the right direction.
Increased U.S. sanctions, trade wars, and fluctuating economic policies have created uncertainty in global markets. In response, Saudi Arabia has been exploring alternatives to the dollar. The Chinese yuan and Russian ruble have emerged as viable options for international trade and financial transactions. According to India Today, Saudi Arabia can now sell oil and receive yuan, euros, rubles, and yen. The Saudis are also eyeing conducting transactions in digital currencies like Bitcoin. These partnerships are crucial in understanding the shift away from the US dollar. The impact of this decision on the oil market cannot be overstated. With oil transactions potentially being conducted in currencies other than the US dollar, the global energy market is poised for a significant shift. According to MSN, the petrodollar's expiration could weaken the US dollar and, by extension, the US financial markets. If oil were to be priced in a currency other than the dollar, it could lead to a decline in global demand for the greenback. This, in turn, could result in higher inflation, higher interest rates, and a weaker bond market in the United States. Binance reported that Saudi Arabia has also joined Project M-Bridge, a collaborative initiative exploring a digital currency platform shared among central banks and commercial banks. This project aims to facilitate instant cross-border payments and foreign exchange transactions using distributed ledger technology. As of 2023, 80% of global oil sales were conducted in US dollars. A shift could reduce this percentage significantly, impacting global currency reserves, exchange rates, and the decline of the US dollar. The decision to drop the US dollar could also be a part of the Saudis' new vision. Under the leadership of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia has been charting a new course. The kingdom's Vision 2030 plan aims to diversify its economy and reduce its dependency on oil. This vision requires new partnerships and a more flexible approach to international finance. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is a bold initiative to transform its economy. Investments in technology, tourism, and renewable energy are reshaping the kingdom's economic landscape, making it less reliant on oil revenues. As part of this strategy, Saudi Arabia has been forging new alliances with major global players like China and Russia. These partnerships are crucial in understanding the shift away from the US dollar. Between 2015 and 2023, Saudi non-oil revenues grew by 122%, and investments in renewable energy projects surged, indicating significant progress towards economic diversification. Who stands to lose the most with the erosion of the US dollar? Who are the biggest holders of U.S. assets and why? Countries like China, Japan, and Saudi Arabia hold significant amounts of U.S. assets, primarily in the form of U.S. Treasury securities. These holdings play a crucial role in their economic strategies. Holding U.S. assets provides economic stability, access to liquidity, and benefits from the interest rates offered by U.S. Treasury securities. These factors make U.S. assets a preferred choice for many nations. However, with increasing geopolitical tensions and economic diversification, some countries are reevaluating their holdings of U.S. assets. This could lead to a gradual reduction in U.S. asset holdings. According to Nigel Green, the CEO and founder of one of the world's largest independent financial advisory and asset management companies, DeVere Group, one of the most significant but underreported outcomes of April's three-day summit between Russia's Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping was that Putin said Russia is now in favor of using the Chinese yuan for oil settlements. This suggests that the world's second largest economy and the world's largest energy exporter are actively intending to reduce the dominance of the US dollar as the bedrock of the international financial system. As of 2023, China and Japan each held over $1 trillion in US Treasury securities, accounting for about 30% of all foreign holdings. However, there have been signs of diversification as these countries increase their investments in other currencies and assets. Yahoo Finance reported that a shift away from the US dollar in oil trading could lead to greater economic and geopolitical competition between countries. If the yuan were to become more widely used in oil trading, this could significantly increase the economic power and influence of China, challenging the dominance of the US in major global affairs. If the US dollar starts to decline, many of these countries holding US assets will start a massive offloading. Why, you may ask? Because the world is becoming less dependent on the US dollar. The global dependency on the US dollar has been gradually decreasing as countries seek to mitigate the risks associated with dollar hegemony. Regional trade agreements and the rise of alternative currencies are playing significant roles in this shift. Regional alliances such as ASEAN, BRICS, and the European Union are increasingly conducting trade in local currencies to reduce reliance on the dollar. For instance, the BRICS nations have been discussing the creation of a new reserve currency to challenge the US dollar's dominance. China's Belt and Road Initiative has furthered the use of the yuan in international trade. By 2023, the yuan accounted for nearly 5% of global foreign exchange reserves, a significant increase from previous years. The US dollar's share of global reserves has decreased from 71% in 2000 to around 59% in 2023, indicating a slow but steady diversification. Is this diversification causing a global economic impact? The immediate reaction to Saudi Arabia's decision has been volatility in global markets. Investors are grappling with the potential long-term effects on the value of the US dollar and global trade dynamics. For the United States, this decision could have profound implications. A reduced demand for the US dollar could lead to higher inflation, increased borrowing costs, and a potential reevaluation of the dollar's role as the world's primary reserve currency. Other economies, especially emerging markets, might experience both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, alternative currencies could provide more flexibility. On the other, they may face increased financial instability. What are the future projections of this monumental change? To gain a deeper understanding of the future implications, we turn to experts in the fields of economics, finance, and geopolitics. Several scenarios could unfold from this decision. Will the US dollar lose its dominance? Could a multipolar currency system emerge? What are the potential risks and rewards for global trade and finance? Countries and businesses must adapt to this new reality. Diversifying currency reserves, establishing new trade agreements, and implementing financial reforms are crucial steps in navigating this transition. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.